Sir, let me start off with this. Okay,
Yes, sir.
PSA says 6.3% second quarter, and I suppose that's a good number already. Looking at the target of 6 to 7%, we're within the targets. But if you look at yung paghihimay dun sa saan nanggaling yung growth, how do you look at that number?
Well, ang tatlo lang bagay na nakikita ko, no. So una, we are building more, no. So construction, so this number po 'yon, no, 16%. Nung tiningnan ko yung breakdown nun, kasi government and private sector, both are actually increasing, and it's a surprise number, no, true to their commitment na babawi sila from the first quarter slack in government spending. More than 20% yung growth ng government infrastructure for the second quarter, and it's a huge addition to our GDP growth, and that's why meron tayong 6.3%. So, yun po yung isang so we're building more, government is building more, and the third is yung general government expense, no, yung mga spending, kasi underspending tayo nung first quarter. So, the budget was not being spent, no, as fast as we can, no, but the second quarter showed that there is a phenomenal growth in terms of government disbursing their budget, and that's a huge help in light of our not so good inflation number. So nakakatulong po ito na nababayaran po ang mga suppliers, nababayaran po, nabibid po yung mga government programs and projects, and so napakalaking tulong po nung tatlong bagay po na yan: government general expense, government infrastructure, and private sector construction have all actually increased significantly to push us higher from 5.8 to 6.3%.
Pero sir, where does wholesale and retail trade come in here? I mean, how important is that vis-a-vis construction? I know, of course, construction is also important, pero in the end, I suppose you also want to look at how people spend and how they're able to spend versus how government is able to spend. Both of course being very important, but don't you also want to see significant increases in the ordinary Filipino's ability to spend?
Well, ang maganda po dito, despite inflation, no, we've seen the household final consumption expenditure has remained at 4.8% growth. No? So hindi po siya bumaba despite challenge ng mga Filipino.
Ibaba nga yung temperature.
So kaya makita natin yung wholesale and retail trade is, I think, the number 3 in terms of
yes, sir.
pushing our GDP. No? So maganda po yan. Of course, slightly lower than what we have experienced in 2022, 2023. But makikita po natin na talagang with more money coming in from investments and government pang-priming activities, medyo natatabunan niya yung kaunting problem natin sa inflation, and so therefore at par lang po yung ating wholesale and retail trade and spending of our households, our Filipino households. So kaya nagtabla yung ating pera at gastos, and then we are now seeing more longer term implications for longer economic activities, no? So investments. So medyo wala tayo masyadong inasahan sa phenomenal growth rate in terms of personal consumption, but good news po nito, mas structural yung increase kasi investments at infrastructure po yung nakita nating nag-increase, and therefore yung sumusunod po yung solid lang po yung ating wholesale and retail trade sector.
Are you seeing the economy within target? Ma-achieve ba yun within the year? And you mentioned may konting problems. Ano yung mga headwinds? What headwinds are you seeing? Siguro mga going into the third quarter, ano yung mga nakikita ninyo?
We've seen yung impact po ng kanina, no? So and hopefully we pray na hindi naman po ganun kalalakas yung mga susunod na bagyo entering third quarter and especially fourth quarter, no? Makita natin yung mga super typhoon. Kung wala naman pong ganung grabing mga super typhoon na dadating sa atin, this should provide help for our agriculture sector. Kung makita nyo po kasi nag-negative po yung agriculture sector natin for second quarter.
Yeah.
And despite that, we grew by 6.3%, no? Kahit warming of the government na marirealize daw natin na lower prices of food, especially by November of this year. Napakalaki pong Christmas gift po 'yon para sa ating Filipino household spending, and therefore that should provide more spending power for other items, and that should push our economic activities faster.
Are you seeing any economic impact ng shutdown nung POGOs? Kasi iba yung naririnig namin sa mga halimbawa sa property sector, iba-iba sinasabi nila na impact eh. Meron bang impact? Any significant impact o blip lang yun?
Siguro initial lang naman po yun, but ang sabi po, naririnig po sa mga announcement left and right by the government, mayroong pangsalo. And in fact, this is where government spending, especially on infrastructure, will be very, very crucial and very, very strategic towards the third quarter and the fourth quarter. No, kung masasalo ng mga build better more projects yung mga mawawalang mga trabaho, then number two, dire-diretso yung ating tourism activities, the influx of foreign tourism, and then lower transportation cost for everyone. So kung magka-cancel po lahat yan, then there will be jobs for everybody. Ang pinakamalaki pong job generators ay yung agriculture saka yung construction. And then tabla po si construction, agriculture, somewhere in between is the tourism, no? So kung mag-accelerate po itong tatlo, si agriculture, construction, saka si tourism, then that should be more than enough to cover the slack or the blip na mangyayaring na job losses ng POGO, no? And that should actually provide more signals na sa atin sa mga real estate, no? Sa malls, sa commercial offices, no, na to continue building. Napakalaking bagay po na nagagawa ng commercial and industrial construction activities sa job generation, and to provide, no, continuous support and capacity building para naman sa tourism. Kasi alam nyo, sa sobrang bilis ng tourism sector, nagkakaubusan tayo ng rooms for hotels, resorts, no? So hopefully yung ganong blip po na sinasabi nyo, Ma'am Ami, no, mapupunuan pa yan more than enough with the construction activities that are happening and will be happening more towards the next 3 years. So,
Ami and Prof, let me just bring in Tito Ronald Llamas,
Yes.
a resident political pundit. Hinahanap ng kanyang mga fans at ito na po siya. Mukhang makisig na makisig yung hapon.
Good afternoon, Prof. Ami. Prof, yung tanong ko lang dahil maganda yung statement ni President Bongbong dun sa kanyang SONA, yung opening statement niya, na sinabi niya yung contradictions between numbers at yung nararamdaman ng mga karaniwang tao. Halimbawa, we're still the fastest growing economy in the region, and yet maraming mga mamamayan hindi nararamdaman ito as reflected dun sa self-rated poverty na tumalon by 12%, almost the highest in 2 decades. So ang tanong ko, Prof, yung substance nung mga numbers, nung mga growth na nakikita natin. Halimbawa, Gini coefficient. Yung level ng inequality natin ay mas mataas pa sa atin yung Rwanda at saka Congo. No? So, pag nag-i-improve yung ating economy, nahahatak ba yung usapin ng inequality? Halimbawa, pag maganda yung ating employment numbers, pero yung underemployment, medyo hindi maganda. No? Ibig sabihin, yung quality of employment ay hindi nakaka-catch up. No? So, yung inflation numbers natin ay relatively bumaba, pero yung food inflation ay still relatively mataas. So, yun yung tanong ko, Prof, yung substance nitong mga numbers na ito. Paano natin aayusin para mag-catch up naman sila, yung substance ng ating economy?
Apo. So, dalawa po kasing klase po yung usapin, no? So, may economic growth tsaka economic development. Sa economic growth, ang pinag-uusapan lang po kasi yung bilis, hindi po yung quality. Tapos may economic development, which doon po papasok yung poverty, inequality, carbon emissions, gender equality, etc. No? So, pero bago second stage po yun bago tayo makarating doon sa economic development, makikita po natin sa experience ni China at ng experience ni India. No, our economy, especially our GDP, must grow by 8 to 10% per year for 8 to 10 consecutive years. That's the problem of our economy. Kasi hindi pa po tayo nag-grow ng 8% since 1951 siguro, and two years in the 1970s. After that, parang mga blip lang po yun, no? So, mag-grow tayo 8% tapos wala na. So, but the experience, for example, of China and India, 8 years at least na consecutive years na 8 to 10% growth po yun. That's the only way, no, according to a lot of my senior mentors sa economics po, no. So na kailangan ma-reach mo yan before you even talk about distributing wealth. Kasi kung hindi, magdi-distribute ka ng poverty. Kung you are just growing at par with per capita GDP, no, so wala ka talagang i-distribute for everybody. No? So that's just enough growth to actually provide more extra money for a little bit more of investment. So that's why the Philippine Development Plan targets at least 7.5%. But kung ako po tatanungin nyo, at least 8% for 8 to 10 consecutive years. Kapag hindi po natin narating yon, lagi pong dadating tayo sa usapan na sinasabi po nyo, no, baka hindi po nagtatranslate sa quality. Kasi nga, paano mo naman i-distribute kung kakaunti yung i-distribute mo. No? So, hopefully, no, with this structural growth, no, and this good signs on investments and infrastructure, we will slowly recover our economic targets for 2024, and then 2025 sana mag-7 na tayo. 2026 onwards, dapat as a nation, we already are talking about targeting 8% at least, no, for at least the next 5 years. Kung maging 8 years yan, di mas maganda po pag-uusapan po natin ang quality jobs, equality of income distribution, etc. No? Yun po yung
pero Prof, kung titignan natin yung ating neighbors, halimbawa ang Vietnam, hindi naman sila consistently 8 to 10%. Pero naisabay nila yung quality ng kanilang growth sa kanilang growth. At this past few years, nalampasan tayo ng Vietnam. Isasabay naman nila yung quality at saka yung substance ng kanilang growth. Baka kinakailangan nating ayusin yung ating comparative advantage. Dahil, halimbawa, libo-libo yung umalis sa China ng mga negosyo, pero walang pumunta sa atin dahil ang comparative advantage natin ay mas mababa kaysa sa Vietnam, kaysa sa Malaysia, Thailand, at saka Indonesia. Baka kinakailangan natin puntahan yung basic. Paano may mag-i-invest sa atin in terms of manufacturing and industry kung yung ating kuryente is still the highest in the region? Diba? Dahil wala tayong subsidy sa energy. Paano sila papasok kung yung corruption sa atin ay mataas pa rin? Or yung infrastructure ay mababa pa rin? Or ngayon, medyo bumababa yung ating education. Halimbawa, kumpara sa Vietnam. So, baka ang usapin ay hindi lamang pump priming the economy. Ano yung direction ng ating economy?
Sino man naman po ako para mag-disagree sa inyo. Tama po, nag-agree po ako sa lahat ng mga panukala po ninyo. So, and it's just why, no, whenever I talk to our friends from the government, no, we emphasize, number one, agricultural productivity. No? So, consolidation of land holdings, so machineries, lahat ng mga fertilizers, hybrid seeds, etc. So that's agricultural productivity, which more than 50% of our poverty is coming from. No? So kung may increase natin yung productivity of the farms, and I'm very hopeful dito sa ginagawa ng National Irrigation Administration on contract farming, no, output-based yung programa. So hopefully, no, ma-increase yung productivity. Number two, on the modernization of government services para mabawasan yung mga manual, yung mga pila, and then so the government can reach as many people, especially the poor, no? So kasi yun naman talaga ang trabaho ng government to provide that counter-cyclical government support, especially towards the lower income classes of our people, no? So, and then number 3, yung e-commerce and logistics, no? So interchangeable na halos ngayon yung e-commerce and digital logistics. So makikita po yan, idagdag ko po dun sa problema natin sa electricity cost. We were one of the highest in terms of logistics cost as a percentage of sales. So if we are able to push all these programs, nagpa-approve na po si President Marcos Jr. ng 3-year food logistics agenda. So isang pinakamalaking maitutulong na pag-cutting the logistics cost is actually bababa yung food, no? So kita nyo, pag mga kababayan natin na nagpunta ng Vietnam, for example, no, ang mumura ng pagkain doon. So kahit naman hindi tumaas yung pera mo, hindi tumaas yung income mo, ang bababa ng presyo ng bilihin sa pagkain.
Spending
no? So,
power mataas.
In fact, parang nagtatagalog na halos lahat yung mga taga-Vietnam, no? Kasi alam nila na malakas gumastos yung kahit na mga regular families na bibisita sa Vietnam, gagastos sila sa pagkain. Talagang malakas tayong kumain bilang Pilipino. Nakikita natin yung translation of our pocket money to food consumption sa ibang lugar na mabababa yung presyo. Malaki pala yung translation ng ano. So, in short, hindi naman tayo talaga naghihirap. Ang problema lang, yung purchasing power nga natin, medyo hindi makasabay doon sa pagtaas ng presyo ng bilihin, especially ng pagkain. No? So, kung
Professor, apart from agriculture and construction, ano pa yung mga growth areas na nakikita ninyo to boost our growth? Kasi yung sinasabi mong 8%, masyado yatang ambisyoso yun. Panahon ni Fidel Ramos, ang target lang nila doon, 7% over 7 years daw. Pero medyo ngayon ko lang narinig yung 8%.
Yes, ma'am. That's the formula that was instituted by China. That's why they were able to, wipe out the poverty of more than 300 million Chinese. Of course, pwede naman tayo mag-target ng 7%. We have to live with mga 10% na poverty rate, ganyan. So, masaya siguro tayo ng 6 to 8% na poverty rate. But if we are going to compete against our neighbors, no, yung sinasabi ni Sir Ronald, na yung Vietnam, yung Thailand, yung Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, no? So talaga yung mga single-digit poverty rates na yan, no? Tayo na lang ang double-digit poverty rate, no? So we really have to grow at 8%. And yung 8 to 10% na yan, Ma'am Ami, target ko na yan bago pa nag-pandemic. Ngayon nag-pandemic pa. And sabi ng NEDA, it will take us at least 10 years para ma-recover yung structural losses natin because of the pandemic, because of yung cut sa human capital.
So ano nga yung growth areas na nakikita niyo apart from agriculture, dahil medyo malala yung sakit ng agriculture natin? Saan pa kaya ang pwede?
Yung tourism, for example, we have seen more than 50% growth, no? In fact, yung 2022 growth natin, more than 80% growth yung 2022 na tourism receipts, no? Combined na domestic and foreign tourism. No, yung 2023 numbers is more than 60%. So I have no reasons to believe that nabababa siya, no? So kailangan kita natin dito sa 2024, if we are to maximize the return, no, of the foreign tourists, and with all these activities, government spending, forcing the circulation of money in our economy, that would be extra money for our people, no? Kahit naman hindi ka naman lumipad, gumala ka ng gumala, malaking bagay yon na umiikot ang pera. Kasi sa economics saka sa business, kailangan umikot yung pera. So paano umikot yung pera? Kailangan umikot yung mga tao. And we have seen so much growth, more than 20-30% growth in accommodation and food services activity, in transport and logistics, and other services. Ano po yung other services? Yun yung mga kasal, binyag, libing, concerts, public events, so mga cultural performances. We've seen double-digit growths in these areas. no? So gusto po 'yan ng mga gusto po 'yan ng mga Pinoy. So I think if we are able to save a little bit more from inflation, then we can further fuel the double-digit growth of the tourism sector, fueling wholesale and retail trade, especially yung sa mga mall activities, etong mga hotels and resorts. So kabit-kabit po yan, yung lahat ng yan, transport, travel, tapos yung lahat po yung mga public events. So these are drivers of growth. And in fact, nung several weeks ago, pinopromote ngayon ng Central Luzon yung MICE conference, yung meetings, incentives, conferences, and exhibitions. No, ang understanding ko doon sa buong promotion na yun, parang we're barely scratching, no, the whole potential of the MICE tourism, no, kasi kakaunti lang po yung, isipin niyo po, ang laki pala ng demand na for people, businesses, delegations to hold their conference in the Philippines. Ang problema, ilan lang ang mga large area for that, no? So if we continue to build all these mga arenas, stadiums, conference centers that can hold 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000, 60,000, 80,000 people, then we can actually maximize that particular demand that is actually being told us, no? Sa mag-build lang kayo Philippines, then we will go, no? So that's one. Tourism, and second, no, ang nakikita natin dito is mining. No? So of course, it's a controversial sector, mining, but dalawa po lang numbers ang remember ko dyan, that mining is just 0.6% of our GDP, pero we're the 5th most mineralized country in the world. No? So, and we have one of the biggest resource of nickel, for example. And saan ba ginagamit ang nickel? Sa battery ng mga cellphones natin, sa computers, sa tablet, electric vehicles. We have an Electric Vehicle Industry Development Act. No, saan mo kukunin yung nickel na yun? So, if we are able to actually maximize these natural resources, both on the parang sightseeing side and the minerals resources, I think, ma'am, ang laki po ng upside of our economy as we actually try to develop our countryside tourism destinations.
Pero sir, to your second point, 0.6 nga lang yung mining sa ating GDP. But at the same time, ang daming mining sa Pilipinas. So how do you up the numbers given the fact that there's so much activity already? Do we need more taxes there? Do we need more the revenue side? Kumbaga, gamit na gamit yung resources natin, but we're only getting that much.
Or ano yung framework, Professor? Halimbawa, ang Indonesia, para magkaroon ng value added dun sa kanilang raw materials ng nickel, pinagbawal nila ang pag-export nito na raw material. Para may value added, pinoprocess muna nila. At nagiging dagdag yan sa kanilang economy. Sa ating
export, mas malaki
kasi usually raw materials.
Raw materials.
Dahil wala tayong kuryente na pwedeng gamitin to process yung ating... so babalik tayo doon sa problema ng energy. Diba? Yes. Yun yung ako natin. Pero yung framework, halimbawa ng Indonesia, ay wag i-export yung minerals ng raw para meron tayong value added, no? Sa ating ekonomiya, sa ating industry, sa ating manufacturing.
Tama po yun. In fact, talking to the DTI Board of Investments, no, they are also looking very closely to that particular framework, except na may kaunting kaibahan lang, no. So I think yung nickel ore ng Pilipinas has a lower grade value than the Indonesian nickel ore, no. So it would require another higher technology for us to bring into the Philippines so that yung mama-maximize natin yung pag-refine ng ating nickel ores, no, and that should be able that will enable our country to attract more investments for the refinery. No, ang understanding ko, all the scientists and nerds of our country, in collaboration with the scientists and nerds of other countries, are putting their minds together so that we can put in that technology as soon as possible, so we can actually do what Indonesia already did, no, na ban ang export ng ore. Dito kayo mag-refine, ang magbebenta lang namin ay refine, so that we capture the value added. And again, babalik ako dun sa Electric Vehicle Industry Development Act natin, how can you actually maximize that new regulatory framework if you don't have inputs for the downstream mining industry, no? So, ang understanding ko po, I think it's a matter of 1 to 2 years for all the scientists working together to put in a technology that is appropriate for our country. So I'm praying, I'm hoping we should have new mining investments over the next 2 to 3 years. No, in combination with how we maximize our new frameworks on ease of doing business. No, so kasi yung mga steps natin in terms of evaluating exploration permits, development permits are decades ago. So but now we have digital technologies, platforms, modernization ng assessment of proposals or applications. So I'm very happy to read from different articles that the DNR is pushing all its efforts, no, to make sure that they actually streamline their process and to shorten the time by which they receive applications, they evaluate and issue these permits. Of course, without shortcutting the social and environmental safeguards. No?
Huling tanong, Prof, huling tanong. Ano bang ma-advise nyo dun sa mga posibleng maging bagong DTI Secretary? Para hindi naman para sila naman ay tumagal sa DTI Secretary. Ano ma-advise nyo sa kanila? Dahil parang nagka-problema sa mga investments yung previous DTI Secretary. No?
Hindi ko po alam yung part ng problema, but kung ako po ay papakinggan ng susunod na magiging secretary ng DTI, no? So I think nandoon naman po sa Philippine Development Plan yung mga strategies po natin, but I've mentioned several items already, no? So that the economy, the global economy, the national economy have transformed structurally, no? So hindi na tayo yung dati na may Philippine Standard Industry Classification, may ganito. Parang nagmo-morph na po yung mga industry classifications po natin. So when we say Department of Trade and Industry, no, so we have to accept na talagang nag-morph na, nag-digitalize na ang buong trade and industry sector, and it will be a very collaborative approach in terms of growing our trade and industry, no? So therefore, the role of e-commerce, the role of artificial intelligence, the role of creative services, especially ang pinag-uusapan po ngayon at the level of the Southeast Asian region is what we call the digitally delivered services, no? So in short, maano po yung trade deficit natin, dumudugo yung trade deficit natin sa exports and imports of goods, pero makikita nyo naman yung export of services natin kasing laki na po ng export of goods. So, kung titingnan po na, parehas na 3 trillion na po yan. So therefore, yan ang ating shortcut. Total, magaling ng mga Pilipino sa mga shortcut. So nakakapag-export na po tayo ng services. Yung mga vloggers natin, yung mga influencers natin, they're earning dollars. No? So if we are to maximize the digital economy, artificial intelligence, e-commerce, digital logistics. So nagsama-sama po ito together with the interface of DTI with the tourism department, the interface of DTI with the infrastructure agencies, the interface of DTI with the Department of Education. I have seen the memorandum of agreement between the Department of Education and Department of Trade and Industry, no? So to make sure na yung curriculum natin for basic education would already incorporate e-commerce, no? So kasi kailangan alam na ng mga bata ano ba yan, paano ba magbenta abroad, whether goods or services. And so we should be able to integrate all these particular developments in making sure that we promote trade and investments, mabawasan po natin yung trade deficit natin, makatipid-tipid po tayo at makadagdag po doon sa GDP natin, and makaka-grow po tayo ng 8 to 10%. Napakadali lang po yun. Kasi tinan nyo po, negative 14% of GDP na po ang trade deficit natin. So if we're just talking about increasing our growth from 6 to 8%, 14% po yung negative, isa-isahin lang po natin, 1 to 2% per year, ilipat natin from trade deficit to GDP growth. Mabilis po natin ma-achieve yung 8 to 10% growth for the next 8 to 10 years. No? So, ganun po yung sa tingin ko na pwedeng maging approach in terms of attacking our economic growth. Hindi naman tayo nagpapaka-protectionist, but the way to do it is to really maximize our talents, our creativity, our knack for services, and therefore we will be able to actually convert the trade deficit to economic growth way faster than we have ever imagined.
Okay, maraming salamat, Professor Ronilo Balbiran, I can see resident economist, pero our expert on the economy today. Sir, thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Salamat.
Thank you,
po.
Professor.